লড়েছি অনেক যুদ্ধ, বুকেতে দাবান হন, জিতবো যে এবার ইউরো, আমিও আমার দল। It's coming home, it's coming home, it's coming home, it's coming home.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the 343 preview show. This is Shuayan. I am yet again joined by Anik, Riddhiman and Sugato to break down match day 4 of the round of 16 of Euro 2020s. We'll be covering two matches. The first of which is England versus Germany and the second being Ukraine versus Sweden. Moving on to the first match. Sugato, why don't you take us away?
So England were placed in Group D alongside Scotland, Czech Republic and Croatia. They started off at Wembley on a very hot day against Croatia. Initially, in the first 20 minutes, they were all over Croatia with a very high press. But predictably, as the match progressed, the intensity fell off and England managed to win via a Raheem Sterling goal. In the second match, again at Wembley, they faced Scotland. And in that match, we can say that Scotland were the better team and they deserved to win, and England were lucky to go off with a point. In the final match, it was against Czech Republic, and finally, by public demand, Jack Grealish started alongside Bukayo Saka on the right flank. In the first half, England played their best football in Euros till now, and with Grealish assisting Sterling for a goal. In the second half, by Southgate's tactics, the intensity again fell off, and they managed to scrape through it on top of the group with 7 points. On the injuries front, England do not have any major concerns. Mason Mount and Ben Chilwell, after spending their time in isolation, have returned to team training, but they are not expected to start.
On the German front, the Germans were placed in Group F along with Portugal, France, and Hungary. They started off their campaign with a 1-0 defeat against France. After that, in the second game, they had a convincing victory against the Portuguese 4-2. And in the last game, they scraped through against Hungary 2-2 via 85th minute goal by Leo Goretzka. The Germans are expected to start by a 3-4-3 formation, with the two wingbacks, Gosens and Kimmich, being their main players.
So from the England side, we have seen the rise of Bukayo Saka. Like his inclusion in the team has made the team a bit better than earlier it was in the first match. So I think he could be an impact player. Say what, Shubhayan or Anik?
Yeah, Saka's inclusion definitely invigorated the English team. Also, not to like Sugato mentioned, the inclusion of Jack Grealish has been a positive note for them. On the German side, I feel I must make this point. Both Joshua Kimmich and Robin Gosens enjoyed a lot of freedom against the Portuguese defense, who did not press them and were not very compact. So they found spaces in behind and wreaked havoc on the Portuguese defense. However, against England, a team that likes to be compact, play a bit more defensively, I don't know how much space they will have to exploit, and so I don't know how much impact they might have on the game.
Yes, and one thing that is taking rounds on the newspapers and articles and everywhere is whether England would switch to back three against Germany. It can have two advantages. One, the teams always try to play with formations that are almost similar to each other. If we see the Germany's matches, then Hungary was the only back three team that they faced in the group of death, and Hungary defended pretty well against the German attacks. On the other hand, the second point may be due to the fact that I was reading a stat somewhere else, and I saw that only 7 out of 60-some passes of the Maguire fell to Luke Shaw, who is the left back of the English team. Now, introduction of Mings may help to solve this issue, and at the same time, you don't want to remove Maguire, who can, send those lofted throughs to the English forward. In fact, Harry Kane managed to have his first shot on target in the entire tournament through that lofted pass of Maguire. And also, if you see Hungary's second goal, it was through a lofted pass, which destroyed the German defense totally. interesting to see, therefore, whether Southgate would deploy the back three against Germany or whether he would stick to his previous formations.
As
Yeah,
Anik mentioned,
interesting point by Anik. I also feel that playing a back four actually hurts England more than it helps, because England, if when they play back three, apart from the fullbacks, the two centre backs kind of stay behind, and also England play two holding midfielders who also like to stay behind. So they are effectively playing with four people at the back, and that is why they cannot create the kind of overloads that you need in the midfield area. So I think playing one less man at the back might actually help England in creating more overloads in the midfield area and press up the pitch higher.
The problem with Germany is that they lack pace in the defense. With Hummels, Ginter, and Rudiger, they are far slower than in the English forwards. And another problem is in the Toni Kroos and Ilkay Gundogan midfield. They do not have any natural CDM at that position. So like Manchester City faced a problem against Chelsea in the Champions League final with Mason Mount playing that ball for Kai Havertz. A lack of a natural CDM creates a lot of gaps in the midfield, and Gundogan not being an expert in that position, instinctively doesn't cover those gaps. So Grealish and Sterling might find themselves with a lot of space in front of them, which can create, and they can thread in passes for Kane to score.
but as you mentioned, like Kane has not been in his top-notch form as he was in for his club Spurs in the past few years, as we have seen in the English Premier League. And also for the national team, he have been much effective in the past few years. But particularly in this tournament, he hasn't found his scoring shoes off, and he seems a bit dull off from the match. Like he always stays like he's not in a form. He's not he's not full 100% fit. We don't know the thing coach, but the coach has trust on him, and I think he is the only striker whom Southgate can trust on and start.
Yeah, interesting point. Interesting point by Anik regarding Harry Kane. I feel apart from he does not look physically at his 100%. Apart from that, I believe what the role that England need Kane to play also hampers his goal scoring opportunities a bit, because Kane has to drop down because of the lack of aggressive central midfielders from England. So he has to drop off and create link up plays that allows players like Raheem Sterling to run in behind and potentially score, which might be good for the team. But ultimately, England might be better suited to allow Kane goal scoring opportunities, as he is their most prolific striker. So in my opinion, he has been a little bit underutilized in this tournament yet.
Leo Goretzka, I guess the introduction of Leo Goretzka in place of Ilkay Gundogan could be a change that the Germans would look based on the impact that he had coming on as a sub in the Hungary game. And also in the English team with Henderson almost being fit, they may start Henderson in place of Declan Rice, which could help England.
Rather, I think if Henderson starts, he'll start in place of Phillips. I think Declan Rice is a regular starter for England, as Southgate mentioned in some few of the articles.
England's biggest problem is when the tournament started, this squad of players had been playing together since the Nations League semi-finals, but still they do not know who is their best playing 11. When the tournament started, only 4 players were sure of their place in the starting 11. One was Pickford, the second was Stones, then Declan Rice and Kane. Maguire was there, but he was injured at the start. And still now we can say that apart from these players, only Maguire and Sterling are certain of their place. So who do you think should start on the right flank instead of either Bukayo Saka or who was that starting in the Phil Foden, or maybe a Jadon Sancho?
The likes of Jadon Sancho could be exploited in the tournament, but I don't think so. After the performance given by Bukayo Saka in the past few matches, the coach would risk to start a new player. They want to keep their winning shoes or the good run.
Okay, guys. So who are the players who you think might have an impact on this game? Who are the players to look out for? Ridhiman, why don't you start?
So I believe in the English team it would be it would be Maguire. Maguire with his defensive capabilities, and also as Anik mentioned, the runs that he makes till the midfield. And as one of the legends said that he can be compared to Lucio, who also made such runs along with the physicality that Maguire has, and also with the experience that Jadon Sancho has in the Bundesliga. Maybe if not starting, he could be utilized as a sub, which could benefit the English team.
Yes,
So-
for me, in case of England, as Riddhiman said, yeah, Maguire will be a player to watch out for because of his runs, and Raheem Sterling, I believe that can have something out of this game because with Kimmich high up, in that flank, then Raheem Sterling can make those cut-ins into the penalty box. And for Germany, I believe that Serge Gnabry, I think that the game that he had against Tottenham Hotspur, I think it was in Wembley itself, right? So he would like to revive those, that match day that he had against Tottenham Hotspur, where he was in beast form, and as well as Kai Havertz, he's been in brilliant form, and being a player of London itself, then he can have something to look out for.
For me in the German team, I would probably look out for the two wing backs. How they play against if England play in a three-man defense, how they play against them and put in the crosses, because they had problem in the Hungary match as well. Like they couldn't get much spaces along the wings or along the flanks and couldn't exploit them well. So my picks from the German side will be the two side backs, and in the England team it will be Bukayo Saka.
For me, on the English side, it would be Jack Grealish, because I believe he has been the most impressive player in the tournament thus far for England. And on the German side, it would be the Gundogan Toni Kroos duo in the midfield, because on the ball they are far better than any combination of like Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, and Jordan Henderson, or even Jude Bellingham. But off the ball, their performance may go on to decide the result of the match.
I guess it will be an interesting duel if Leon Goretzka and Jordan Henderson both start, both are being box-to-box midfielders, and it will be interesting to see who takes control of the midfield. I believe that will play an important role in the setting the tempo for the match. So all in all, I feel that this match has it's a little bit difficult to predict. It's a little bit it can be cagey also. It can be open game also. We don't really know what kind of teams will show up. All in all, interesting game. Let's see what kind of performances the players put in. Prediction time. Okay, so Anik, why don't you go first?
Yes, so I believe that England are yet to concede a goal in this tournament, but Germany is a very free-flowing side. But I believe that England have that quality and that stability to beat Germany. I will go for a 2-1 victory for England, with maybe Harry Kane getting back to his scoring sheet.
I believe this match will be cagey from the start. It will require probably more than 90 minutes. For first 90 minutes might be 1-1 and England to clinch it in extra time.
For me, it could be, as Shubhan mentioned, that it could be a cagey game, but it could also be an open play after some time. Like it could be a high-scoring match as well. If we see from the second half itself, like from the first half, it could be a bit slow-paced match. But from the second half, one team could take up on other. For me, it could be a 2-1 or 3-2 win to Germany.
Ridhiman, just 1 second. Sorry to butt in here. See, this is the kind of stuff we like. Optimistic football fans hoping for a high-scoring game from two, characteristically slow teams. So this is the kind of energy, this is the kind of optimism that the players should receive from the fans. So it's good to see some optimistic picks from our gentleman here. Yeah, Ridhiman, continue.
Yeah, so considering England's form in the Euros, where they have scored 2 goals and conceded nil in the 3 games, it would be a tactical battle between Lowe and Southgate, and expecting it to go to the extra time where England would clinch it 1-0. I
would predict a 1-0 win to England with Raheem Sterling scoring in the first half and Southgate masterclass in the second half. Football is coming home finally.
So it's 4 4 people predicting an English win and 1 a German win.
I guess so. We are treading a fine line here because you can never count out the Germans, and 4 of us just did. So
Exactly.
I guess we should be ready to eat our own words shortly. Anyways, moving on to the second match for the match day. It's a relatively low-profile match on paper, but I believe this match has the potential to be even better than the England-Germany match which comes before. This is Ukraine versus Sweden. Coming to the Swedish side, they had a lukewarm start to the campaign with a 0-0 draw with Spain. They found 1 goal against Slovakia, Emil Forsberg scoring. But against Poland, they really spread their wings. It was a very open game, very end-to-end stuff. It was a very exciting game with Sweden finding 3 goals, out of which 2 were from Emil Forsberg. He has been on fire in this tournament. Sweden like to play a conventional 4-4-2 formation, which is not very commonly seen in modern football. Alexander Isak up front has been a very menacing player. Emil Forsberg has found form. In defense, Victor Lindelof, as always, reliable, and he has been marshalling the defense very well. The 2 fullbacks, Michael Lustig and Ludwig Augustinsson, have been making inroads into the opposition defense and both having found assists in the tournament. And finally, Dejan Kulusevski, if he starts, I believe he can be an impact player because for the 35 minutes he played against Poland, he wreaked havoc on the Polish defense and created a lot of opportunities for Forsberg. So Dejan Kulusevski might be a player to look out for in this matchup.
For Ukraine, Ukraine qualified to the knockout stages after becoming third in the Group C. The first game against Netherlands was enough to grab the attention of the footballing world, where they, on the way to an exceptional comeback, they were 2-0 down, and then they scored 2 goals like in a span of 5 or 6 minutes. But they lost the game 3-2. On second game, they defeated North Macedonia in a convincing win. But on the third game, they were pretty much dominated by an Austrian side, whose quality we saw in their win against in the loss against Italy. The Ukrainian players, the Ukrainian trio up front of Yaremchuk, Yarmolenko, and Malinovsky are a trio to look out for. Although Sweden's defense is very strong, the way they held Spain to a 0-0 draw, despite the latter having 80% almost ball possession, is a fascinating one. But we saw Poland breaking open the Sweden's defense every now and then in the last match of the group stage. Malinovsky is a player to watch out for, despite him not having any goals, but he is a brilliant winger and striker for the Atalanta side. And also Zinchenko is a very experienced Man City winger, and he is a person also to look out for.
So, as you mentioned in the first match, Ukraine, like one of the CDMs in the Ukrainian side, that is Stepanenko. Like his play has also impressed me a bit. Players like Yaremchuk, Yarmolenko has been on the scoring sheet as well from the Ukrainian side. As Shubhan mentioned that like this match may be a low-profile match, but on paper, but in the field, it could be a very end-to-end game and could be a very interest. It's not just an interesting game, but a game which can be entertaining to the football lovers.
Yeah, I believe with Kulusevski being out for the first 2 matches due to COVID protocols, Sweden was very restrained on the ball, with in the midfield Forsberg being the only creative outlet. Now, we saw in the last match with the introduction of Kulusevski, he was playing balls in behind for the strikers. So, if Isak and the other striker, whoever will be starting with him, can score, Sweden may win it. I think they are the favorites for this match.
Yeah, so Victor Lindelof's form for the Swedish team has been a revelation. His main problem that he faces at club level for United is his physical battles that he has to face against the strikers. So his battle against the Ukrainian forward line of Yarmolenko, Yaremchuk could be one of the key battles to look out for. But in case of Ukraine, Zinchenko in midfield, he has been in good form. So as all others mentioned, it could well be an end-to-end game, and expecting maybe an high scorer.
It'll be interesting to see how the Swedish midfield, as Shoto mentioned, without a lot of firepower. Emil Forsberg being the pretty much the only player to look out from the Swedish midfield. It'll be interesting to see how the Swedish midfield copes with the firepower that the Ukraine midfield has, with Alexander Zinchenko and Ruslan Malinovsky both being present. So I suspect the Swedish defense might have to do some heavy lifting in this matchup, and it'll come down to Victor Lindelof and possibly Robin Olsen having to make some important saves.
Yes, and as Subhan said, that this could be actually the best match of that night, despite the other game grabbing more limelight of the footballing world, because Ukraine under Andriy Shevchenko plays a very free-flowing football, and I believe that it's very wrong to rule them out, despite Sweden topping the group that had Spain and the likes of it. And their results can be very unpredictable. Like, for example, we should keep in mind that they qualified to this Euro Cup by topping the qualification group that had Portugal, right? And at the same time, they can lose 7-1 to France in an international friendly. So they play very unpredictable football. You don't know what happens to them when they attack. They attack with very with a huge purpose, but at the same time, they leave the defense prone to the opponent's attacks. So it will be a very interesting game to watch, I believe.
Yeah, so I guess we already covered the most of the players to look out for. So I guess time for predictions. Sugoto, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I would predict a 2-0 win for Sweden because they have looked the most sorted team in this tournament.
Yeah, I would go for a 3-1 win for Sweden.
For me, it's a 2-1 win for Sweden.
Seeing everyone, betting for Sweden to win, I would just go against it and would predict Ukraine winning it 2-1.
Yeah, despite most of the panel agreeing that Sweden are the favorites for this matchup, I honestly believe, despite Sweden topping the group, this is actually a closer matchup than it seems on paper, and I expect some fireworks. So it might be very close, and Sweden might eke out a 2-1 win with potential impact from Dejan Kulusevski.
So that's it for the round of 16 of Euro 2020. We'll meet you soon at the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals of the tournament. So if you like our content, do like, share, and subscribe to the channel.
And do let us know of your predictions as well and what you think of the discussion that we have done so far.
Also, lastly, check out the previous episodes if you haven't. The links are in the description. This has been a very interesting tournament so far. We hope the matches will continue to be as cracking as possible with some major upsets. See you soon, guys. Take care.